Hello, and welcome to the What Inspires You podcast. My name is Paul.
And I'm Brandon. Join us as we rediscover wonder through inspiring conversation. Here we are. Hey. Welcome to our episode. Thanks for listening. You're still with us.
Yeah, after a little hiatus and Brandon going to the sweet, sweet land of Hawaii.
That's right. I had to go to Paradise for a little while.
Yep. And now Paradise is lost.
Paradise is now lost.
By Milton.
Yep. And I'm back in the Dante's Inferno. So not really an inferno. It's more like
Soggy Inferno.
Soggy, icy, cold winter of Narnia. Something like that.
Right. Well, let's see. Should we just kick it off?
Let's kick it off, man. You want to kick first, or should I? Who feels like kicking today?
I'm excited about mine, so I can do some rambling and ranting real fast.
Go for it, man. Do the ramble.
So each time I mean to come up with a question for you.
Oh yeah. Oh, you need me to go first now?
No, I won't be able to think of a question on the fly like that. But you always come up with such good abstract questions that make me just wonder where you're going with things. But I want to do the same.
It's the art of misdirection.
It is, yeah.
I just try to make you think about something as far away from the real topic as possible.
I know, yeah. And then you always somehow tie it back perfectly.
Let me bring it back now from outer space.
Yeah. And it was snails all along. How did you not get that?
Yeah, obviously.
Planets are round, snail shells are round. It's an obvious correlation. How could you miss it? But yeah. Anyway, I won't. I'll save the question for next time. Okay. I'll just launch right into it. So my thing is, I like one-word things, and symmetry is my word that I'm going to go with. But it has almost nothing to do with actual physical symmetry, and more to do with narrative symmetry.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been thinking about the Bible as I usually do, and it's so interesting how it just kind of mirrors itself, right? It's such a weird narrative structure and concept. But yeah, I've had a few more insights and things I've been thinking about of how that mirroring happens. So it's obviously you have kind of the garden at both ends, right? The paradise at both ends. And one thing that's always kind of stood out to me as weird is the flood. That's weird. The world gets destroyed right after the garden, and then in the Old Testament, I always or the New Testament, I always kind of looked for, it's okay, where is there flood type stuff? And it's obviously in the final judgment. It's so clear now to me, where it's garden flood or garden judgment, and then judgment garden. So it mirrors itself there. And I was oh, interesting. I mean, it even says that in the Bible. So it's kind of obvious when it's as it was in the days of Noah. So it will be then, so it talks about the judgment and then paradise. So that was another interesting thing. And then I was even thinking about kind of the early church and stuff. And I was interesting. I wonder if there's a parallel there. I'm dude, it was all the prophets. And it was, there was, so you have kind of this lead up of prophets to Christ. And then you have the apostles, which are kind of the mirror to the prophets in a lot of ways, taking all those things, having revelation and sharing it. And so it's it's the inverse of that. And then even too, it's weird with Israel's dissolution to some extent and reformation, where Israel's in exile, and then there's the little time when Christ is there where everything's kind of back together, and then the temple gets destroyed and they're back in exile again. So it's even there you have this weird gap of the Israelite nation on both sides of Jesus. Which is a weird thing too. And so then I've really been thinking about this, because Jesus is obviously the center point of the whole story. I think most people would agree on that. But the idea is the imagery of the cross. It's it's where all the extremes come together. What is a cross? But almost a place where all
marks the spot.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the points.
The center point of two
Yeah.
Two things here.
Exactly.
Perpendicular lines.
Yeah. And so there's a center point to those two those two arms reaching to the to infinite in some sense. Like if you're to like look at an algebra plot or whatever, you know, it's like those lines go out to infinity, but then like where they meet is the point, you know, that's like the center point of it all. And so I was like, dang, what an interesting like symbolism to tie all this stuff together, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. So to me, that was like kind of an amazing, like just thinking through where all the symmetry happens was kind of like profound for me.
Yeah.
Is there a symmetry that you've noticed in the Bible that
I mean, I always love chiasms, which is that poetic symmetry, you know? And you see that when people say things forward and backwards, you know?
Oh, yeah.
To the mall we shall go. We shall go to the mall.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you say those kinds of things. And the Bible is just filled with stuff like that. And I love looking at those structures in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how, I mean, one, when you think about like storytelling, a lot of times good storytellers will start their story with something at the beginning that like foreshadows the end. And that's exactly what God does. You know, it's like the story narrative arc in the Bible is like the same way.
Yeah.
And you see that in movies all the time. And I feel like I joke about this with my wife because it's like a cliche that when you watch a movie in the first like 5 minutes, I'm like trying to predict how the movie, you know, it's like we'll start a new movie and I'll be like, this is a movie about a kid and their parents die, just like all movies, and then they're gonna have to go through an internal suffering and turmoil, and then they're gonna make friends with somebody, and they're gonna learn how to do this thing, and then they're gonna come back to this, and they're gonna like fix all the problem of the past, and then they'll be a smarter
the answer was
person.
within all along.
That's right. The answer was follow your heart the whole time. You know, it's like, I mean, you try to predict the movie, but a lot of movies will give this foreshadowing in the first few minutes, and you can like pick up on that and then be like, now I can predict the whole movie, you know?
Yeah.
But that foreshadowing is really rewarding when it pays off at the end, and you're like, oh yeah, that thing at the beginning. And that's like symmetrical or circular storytelling, you know? You come back to what it was at the beginning. You know?
Yeah, set up and pay off.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, actually, I just had a perfect example of that stuck out to me when I was watching Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh, yeah.
And like in the beginning, he's like playing frisbee with his dog, you know, and it's like you can just tell by the way they're using the camera movements that it's like, okay, like this, they're not just like it's not a. In good movies, there's no wasted moments, right? It's like there's only so much you can show and tell. So it's like the things you choose to show and tell should have like a lot of meaning, even if it's like seemingly random, you know, like playing frisbee with a dog. And so then, of course, at the end of the movie, you know, he's in jail or whatever, and he needs to go like, you know, like fetch like his dog to fetch something, you know, and so he uses the frisbee throwing skill, and the dog does it, you know, because it's been showed, you know. So it's like it's that definitely the setup and payoff where it's like what could be just a throwaway scene is brought back and then like integrated into the plot. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess to me, though, is there a difference between like setup and payoff versus like events mirroring each other? Does that make sense? Like,
I guess, yeah. So I guess that a mirror would be two equal parts reflected versus setup and payoff would be we established this as a stepping stone so that you could end here. It's more linear. It's similarities that build to a point. Whereas I would imagine a mirror being two equivalents that are just repeated in two different timelines.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost outside of time.
Yeah.
I think the way you explained it was really nice with like, one is like pointing forward in time. The other one's just like both existing simultaneously.
Yeah.
In some sense. Because I do think, okay, now we're going to get really off the deep end.
Well, we got to start on the deep end and then end on the deep end. We have to parallel our deep ends here, apparently.
That's true.
It's like a swimming pool that would have a deep end, a shallow end, and then a deep end again.
That would be a really cool pool.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'd swim in that, yeah.
So the deep end.
The deep end is... Because... Okay, so I've been obsessed with sacrifice for a long time. Medium amount of time. And...
ever since that one time when we took Billy up to the mount. Oh, no, never.
Yeah. As long as other people are sacrificing, it's great. Sacrifice is amazing. If I have to sacrifice, then it's not so great.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how occultism works.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, so I've been like just obsessed with this concept of like how it kind of refreshes the world in some sense or helps create the world.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was talking with someone the other day, and he was kind of bringing up the point that, oh man, I'm not going to be able to do this justice, but that the Old Testament sacrifices, like still kind of happen today in a sense, like because a lot of those sacrifices were about reconciliation, like making things right, like setting things back in order, restitution, social justice, all this kind of stuff, and that so those things still happen today. And I was like thinking about it, and then he mentioned something else kind of crazy. He's like, basically we're the temple, and I was like, oh, that's the key. Like we're literally, if we're the temple, instead of the sacrifices being external now with like outside things, it's like we're just making those sacrifices of ourselves rather than like using these like external things for those sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's like, and like, I mean, the verses say that, right? You're a living sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so it's like all these sacrifices that we used, that like are laid out in the Old Testament are still there for us to make, but the offering is different. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is pretty well. I've never thought of that before. Yeah, we don't have to go kill a goat. We have to kill your desires deep down inside.
Well, kind of, yeah. Or, you have to set things right. You have to like put things back in cosmic order, whether that be if you stole from someone, like go give it back, maybe pay them back tenfold or whatever, like these patterns still exist. And that's where the mirror idea kind of comes in, that it's like these patterns didn't go away. And to me, that's where it kind of unlocked the idea of like, oh man, because I always wondered, to me, it was always a mystery why Jesus said, like, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, And like, I mean, there's intellectual answers you can kind of come up with why that is, just like, oh yeah, well, it's like, we just have a better thing now or something, But to me, that makes a lot, like this idea of us being the sacrifices makes a lot more sense as far as like, oh yeah, I didn't go anywhere. It's just the kind of the order of what was being sacrificed shifted to some extent. And so, because you look at like, I mean, everyone likes the few laws in Leviticus about stoning other people, but like most of them were about, really mundane things of how to like respect your neighbor and like live in harmony with people.
Yeah.
Like the majority of whatever 600, laws were that, So, yeah, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And, even the other offerings that weren't for, sin or whatever was still like fellowship offerings and stuff. And so it's like, you're still, then you're kind of the substitute for those ancient sacrificial practices. And it's like, whoa, that's trippy. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, do you feel like the mirroring, the symmetry of the Bible, I mean, it's intentional. There was, I would imagine there was a lot of purpose done. Do you think that purpose was done more in, how should I say it, more in the like divine inspiration, God inspiring people to do this? Or do you feel like it was almost more in the editing afterwards where people are like, Genesis has this theme going on. We should edit the book in such a way that like, we put Genesis at the beginning and we put Revelation at the end because they kind of got similar things. I don't know. Do you feel like it was God's like mastermind plan that like this is how the Bible shall be outlined? Or do you feel like kind of people almost like thought that would be cool?
Like some really good writer was like, you know what this needs? Good ending.
You know what makes a good story?
Yeah.
Plato's 3 rules of storytelling. I don't know. Yeah, I think Plato said that.
Maybe. Who knows? Pass it off as true.
Like Atlantis.
Yeah. It's truer than you think. No, I don't know. But no, I think it's inherent to reality. And so I'm just pulling in everything I've been thinking about for the past couple days.
I mean, it's just like it's like a rule of storytelling. So it's like it's like a good rule of writing to have that kind of like symmetry, I think.
Yeah, but like what like good rules of writing are completely arbitrary unless they're based off like some deeper reality, right?
Okay.
So like, because if we told the story in a different way, no one would read it because it's just trash. It's like doesn't make sense or it's unintelligible. If you scramble all the words of a story, it's no longer a story. It's just like a pile of words. But what's a story? It's like a pile of words, but ordered in a certain way.
Yeah.
So like there needs to be like we don't write stories because they're inherently right, or like we don't write stories that are arbitrary. We write them like based off of like rules of reality, if that makes sense. And so, or patterns that are there that we pick up on. And because I've even been, this is gonna be so ranty, but because I've been, talking about this guy or to this guy about making a game, and he's like, he's really inspired by the hero's journey. And, it's like, it's such a cliche in some sense, right? But everybody identifies with it still.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to go out of style in some sense.
Like a Taylor Swift song.
Oof. Yeah.
I don't know that. I've heard people say
she's washed up.
No, I just admitting that I know a Taylor Swift song. That's all.
Okay.
I was trying to fake denial, make a joke about it, but no, I know about that song.
Yeah. Okay.
I know about a couple songs.
Ooh, couple.
Yeah.
Can we get you to 5?
Probably not, actually. I don't know if I can.
It's like an auctioneer. Can we get 6 Taylor Swift songs? But yeah, so I think ultimately, the hero's journey, like basically the idea would be that, it's this story archetype that like really captures something that happens in the real world, or like this pattern that really happens. And so then to take that back to the symmetry of the Bible and whether or not it was like created or superimposed, I definitely think it's like an inherent thing, kind of like the hero's journey. It's like this pattern that just naturally exists. And then to tie in the movie Arrival with those aliens. So in that movie, the aliens have this like language that they speak that's their race is like outside of time, basically. So their language reflects that. And then if you learn the language, like learning other languages of other cultures will kind of like unlock certain ideas about their culture in their language, right? Like, some cultures might not have a word, like whatever. In Greenland, they have like 32 words for ice or something. It's like just different types of ice. Thin ice, wet ice. Like all this stuff. And so it's like, the language you speak is shaped by the environment and teaches you about the environment and kind of the nuance. It's like romance languages are much more, emotional and things like that. So it's like you just, by growing up in that language, you see the world in a certain way and it shapes your perspective. So the aliens have a language or their perception is outside of time. So as you learn their language in this movie, then you kind of become outside of time as well. And the interesting thing is the language they use, right? So circles. So they actually don't have a beginning and an end to their words, which actually they allude to in the movie. That's like, they use the example of if you were writing a sentence from beginning to end with each hand working towards the middle. And so, like they're saying, like in English, it'd be hard to do because you'd have to like know exactly how much space each letter is going to occupy, and like how long the sentence that you would want is going to be, or whatever. Because it's like in a linear fashion like that, whereas like in a circle or whatever, it's infinite. But so in some sense, like I think since God is out of time, like you would have to have a system or a story or a pattern, like a story pattern that's also outside of time. And so I think by having things go towards the middle, like there's 2 ways to have infinite kind of. You can either go infinitely out in either direction, or you can go infinitely in either direction. And I think the Bible does both because it's like right before creation, there's God. And then at the end of creation, there's like basically an eternal paradise. And then if you turn in, it's an infinity, like going into Jesus. And so it's like this weird, like you couldn't have it any other way. If it had like a beginning and an end, it would be like not representative of God in some sense.
That's pretty deep stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty dream within a dream.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still working it out, but
Yeah, that is interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, if God's story was finite, it's like he would be finite, you know, and he's not. So it's got to be this infinite extension of his story, his existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's kind of, I mean, we see it in our world, right? It's like you look up into the stars, there's no end. And then you look down at the quantum realm and there's no end. So it's like the same thing too in our physical world. It's like we see that same pattern in our physical world, our story world, and our spiritual world. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything kind of reflects each other at different scales. That's like where you'd say fractals, you know, it's like everything's kind of a fractal pattern of like the next thing. Speaking of which, have you ever seen the Mandelbrot set?
No, I don't know what that is.
It's super trippy. It's this math equation that basically makes infinite patterns. Like when you plot it on a graph, essentially, it'll make like these super trippy patterns that you can zoom infinitely into that like repeat the pattern.
What? Oh, yeah. Wait, I feel like maybe I've seen the zooming in thing before. Yeah, it's like like you zoom in and it's like the same thing was smaller and then it like appears bigger again and then yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's like one of the few equations I think that can do that, where it's like by applying it at different scales, it'll always, like as you apply ratios to it, it'll always like show the same pattern. It's like a crystal kind of or something. But yeah, and then you can kind of like explore it infinitely and like it's trippy. You have to, if people want to check it out, you probably have to watch like a full video explaining it. But they do have some like little tools online where you can like zoom in and see and stuff like that. But
and then somewhere down there you could find Ant-Man.
Yeah, waving back at you.
I mean, I was gonna have to bring it up at some point.
Oh yeah,
throw Ant-Man in there.
Some quantum tunneling.
That's right.
Yeah,
time travel.
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway for me was just the idea of the I like the sacrifice thing, like the idea of like modern day sacrifice, switching from an external to an internal. And I think that's how the Old Testament mirrors a lot of the New Testament. It's like external versus internal. And I don't think those worlds are mutually exclusive either. I think a lot of people now are like, especially Christians, are like, it's all spiritual. And it's like, actually, I don't know. Like, I think the physical plays a large role in that. And it may not look like going and sacrificing a goat out in your front yard, but it does look like making like physical restitution or like, you know, doing something in the physical world as well. That's like external. So, yeah, like, I guess to me, it's becoming much easier to merge those two worlds together.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's super. I mean, that's a lot of deep thoughts there. It's interesting to consider some of that.
Yeah.
I guess I don't think as much about grand scale symmetry as I do like small scale symmetry when it comes to biblical thought. And even, I don't know, sometimes I've thought a little bit about historical context symmetry, which is kind of interesting.
What would be an example of that?
Well, just thinking, you know, because there's so many patterns in history that repeat. So it's like, oh, we were making these kinds of life principle mistakes way back when. We're still making them today. Like, how did Rome fall? Is America going to fall the same way? You know, it's just like weird parallels, you know, that you can kind of see in history. That's like, same humanity, just different time. And wondering, and I mean, being in the world of health, one of the funny things that people always parallel is the similarities between babies and the elderly, you know, like you came into the world naked and people had to take care of you, and you leave the world, you know, in like
changing your diapers,
in like a patient gown with the diapers, and you're naked all the time and everyone's taking care of you, and it's the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's just like a weird middle where you're competent, taking care of yourself, you know? There's a lot of jokes that people are always teasing out with that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. The symmetry of a human life. So does that mean like the 20s and the 80s are the same?
Well,
You're a little reckless. You're a little like
maybe
carefree. Don't care if you live or die. Then,
I mean, I have heard that a lot of older folks, when they go to like living in nursing homes, they just like let out their inner party and go crazy because they're like, we're gonna die soon anyway. So I'll just go crazy and do whatever.
That's pretty youth mentality right there.
Yeah.
At least when you're a youth, you just don't know better.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of reckless.
When you're older, you just don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
It's like, we know what we're doing.
Maybe that's why like 40 is the midlife crisis. There's nothing to like mirror it. You know, you're just like, I'm completely out of my depth here. You know, I don't know what to do.
There's no mirror to this part of my life.
Yeah. And then your 30s and 50s, it's like the responsible time of your life. You're like, I'm a responsible human being.
Mm-hmm. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm about.
Yeah, those mirror each other.
Yeah. In your 30s, you're like, have young kids. And in your 50s, it's like, make those kids go to college.
Yeah. Right.
Something like that.
Hopefully you're not having another kid at that age.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess 50s, yeah, not really. But yeah.
What was Tony Robbins is like 60 and he just had a kid.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, like I don't know what the age difference is between he and whoever he had the kid with.
It's more than 1 year.
It's more than yeah.
Maybe even more than 2 years.
Menopause usually happens around like 50, so it's got to be somebody younger than that.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, someone had like some old creep person had like a baby at 80 recently.
What?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then you just start thinking about Abraham and Sarah, and it's like, if he was like 100 and she was 90, it's just like, what? She had menopause already? Or maybe they didn't have that as much back then. Maybe it was different. Or maybe God was just like,
bam!
I don't care about menopause. Do whatever I want.
That's probably more likely,
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my symmetry rant.
Symmetry. There it is. I like it.
Yeah.
The Bible's got it. You need it.
$9.99.
Call now. 1999.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. Like there's obviously infinitely deep you can go with that, right?
I feel like you just give me a lot of weird things to chew on.
If you have questions or you need to...
Even my mouth is symmetrical. I can chew on the left side. I can chew on the right side.
It's true.
My face is mostly symmetrical.
I know bodies are
symmetrical.
Oddly not perfectly symmetrical,
no,
but
unfortunately.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Only for Brad Pitt.
Oh, speaking of which, I made your dad watch 12 Monkeys.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the other night.
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
funny.
I think that's a little confusing. I was like, I think you're supposed to like laugh at how weird Brad Pitt is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a movie he would appreciate or not.
I know. I didn't think about the ending either, and I forgot it had a depressing ending where the main character dies.
Yeah,
and humanity still gets infected by a virus.
Everybody gets screwed.
Yeah, I'm like, well, they did find a cure for the virus, so happy ending, right? He's like, but the main character died, and I was like, he
doesn't want to watch anything where the main character dies.
Yeah,
that ruins the whole movie for him.
Yeah,
that's why he's never read the New Testament. I'm just kidding.
Spoiler alert.
It's okay because he comes back.
Is that why he watches Terminator?
Well, yeah, he does watch Terminator, so I don't know.
Terminator comes back.
Yeah.
Literally says, I'll be back. And gives the thumbs up as he's going down to hell.
Oh, man.
Is Terminator just the New Testament?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm sure there's been like
man, somebody's figured it out.
I'm sure a church has done that. Like when they were doing when the Matrix came out, and they were doing all their like PowerPoints with the Matrix
that's right.
slides.
So many
and
people
stuff.
were hopping on the Matrix bandwagon.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars bandwagon, and
and the Passion bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
Although that one made more sense.
Yeah. That one was actually about the story.
Yeah. You didn't have to try too hard.
Yeah.
Or the Gladiator.
Oh yeah.
I remember a few of those.
Yeah.
You need to be more like Russell Crowe.
That's right.
Like, how does that apply to Jesus? I don't know.
But I just watched that movie last week. So I wanted to make a sermon point about it.
Yeah, I watched Gladiator instead of writing sermon notes. I had to improvise.
So I'm talking about it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They're showing a few clips.
Yeah. That's what I actually studied this week. So we're going to go with it.
Oh my gosh.
Because it wasn't the Bible. Anyway, as we put all these pastors on blast.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
I know you do.
What's the biggest animal you've ever seen in person?
Ooh. Probably an elephant.
Yeah.
I mean, mass-wise or height-wise? Because I've seen a giraffe.
Either way. Elephants and giraffes, you're thinking?
I've seen a blue whale skeleton.
Oh, really? Where'd you see that?
They have one at the Natural History Museum in Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. You could like walk through all the bones.
I was imagining that it like washed up on the shore or something. But yeah, no, you're right. They do have all those bones there. I forgot about that.
But yeah, probably be like an elephant, I would guess.
Okay. What do you think life would be like if we were just constantly surrounded by animals that were huge? Like just
it's open season, baby.
Giraffes and elephants and giant blue whales were just all around us all the time.
I've wanted to see a blue whale for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd probably be, just depends on if they're carnivores or not, right?
Let's just assume that they are.
For the sake of argument.
For the sake of making the question more interesting.
Yeah, then I
assume that they also eat us.
I would assume we'd have
bloodthirsty giraffes,
steel reinforced housing, drive around in tanks, and be living in Jurassic Park.
That's exactly the point. So thank you for segueing into my point here.
You're welcome.
After being on Kauai for a week, I spent a lot of time thinking about Jurassic Park.
Okay.
And I even watched the movie while I was there.
Oh, sweet.
And I hummed the song quite a bit. I would be driving in the car, yes, and I would be sing that almost every morning.
Was that filmed in Hawaii?
Yeah, it was filmed a lot in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just made me, I think, enjoy the idea of dinosaurs again and think about, obviously Jurassic Park is like dinosaurs goes wrong, but
they were wrong from the beginning. That's why they're gone. No, I'm just kidding.
But see, that's the whole thing is it's just so fun to think about the dinosaurs. And there's a lot of biblical ideas you can think about with dinosaurs and whatnot and the science behind it all and how it works and why they aren't alive today. But I think it's just always fascinating that not only is there that fun of like there were these giant sort of like monster animals that were alive, with humans, and it's like, ooh, that seems crazy. But I think also just the mystery of it. It always feels exciting because we've never seen any of them. And it's like we just have the bones, and the bones just make you like wonder. And it's almost that thing where like if dinosaurs were alive today, they probably wouldn't be cool because they'd seem normal. But because they're dead, they seem cool, you know, because it's unknown. It's like if elephants and giraffes were dead today and nobody had ever seen them for like thousands of years, it would be like, once upon a time, there was a crazy animal that had a really long neck. It probably was like bloodthirsty for humans, and it was extremely dangerous. Then we would like recreate weird movies.
Could run 100 miles an hour.
It probably had feathers coming out of its neck, and it could probably run, had long legs, so it could probably run super fast and jump. Probably could jump really high. It would swing from the trees from its neck like a tail. You know what I mean? You make up like weird fantasy. Like who even knows? I don't know, whatever, man.
Yeah.
And it's like just your imagination makes it more exciting than it is, you know? And I feel like that's part of the fun with dinosaurs is like the fact that they are extinct, like almost makes them more fun. You know?
You can add your imagination to the mix.
And I think it's interesting too, just how people have reimagined dinosaurs, like Jurassic Park. That's kind of the most famous movie recreation of dinosaurs. And that's imagining them all as these like bloodthirsty, chaos creatures, and humanity's trying to control them, but nature is stronger than humanity. Life finds a way.
Jeff Goldblum's life finds a way.
Let me drop these little water drops on your hand, and you see there, your boyfriend's not paying attention, so I'm going to caress you. But it's
It was the 90s.
yeah.
That was okay then.
That scene where he's just like open chested, like a line, just like the Fabio pose. It was just like, oh man, it's too much. It's too. I can't handle it right now. Anyway, but
I'm sure you unbuttoned your button after you saw that too.
I may not have even been wearing a shirt. I
Yeah,
don't even know.
true.
I was in Kauai. I was only wearing clothes like half the time.
It's clothing optional.
But well, I wore my shorts, just not my shirt. But yeah, in the dinosaur idea, you could either picture dinosaurs as like they're just trying to kill after humans and humans are surviving, or there's kind of the, well, maybe it's back like pre-flood in the Bible where animals and humans were kind of chill with each other, and so people lived with the dinosaurs and, you know, they just were all buddies. And like the T-Rex wasn't really killing people because I guess there weren't really carnivores back then or whatever, you know? And that also seemed wild to me. And there was a movie, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, it's called Dinotopia. But
I think I've seen parts of it.
yeah, okay. Yeah. It's like not that good. It's like a B- movie. But
Oh wow.
but it's kind of interesting just because it's like this utopia world where humans and dinosaurs live together in peace and harmony on this one island. And the dinosaurs, like some of the dinosaurs can talk and communicate with humans, and they're kind of like parallel to people.
Aren't they like
in
telepathic or
society.
something? Or didn't they like invent a device or something? Like,
They
because
maybe
it wasn't it like a little bit science fiction.
it was kind of science fiction-y.
Yeah.
There was sort of a thing where there were like these magic gems, and the magic gems would like protect them from the T-Rex or whatever. And as long as they like had the light of the magic gemstones in their city, then it would like protect them from the evil dinosaurs coming to eat them.
Okay.
So
Pacifying the dinosaurs.
yeah, with shiny rocks.
Interesting.
Anyway, yeah.
I'm sure there's some weird metaphor in there.
yeah. But yeah, it was an interesting movie. But anyway, just again, kind of the parallel of like, okay, some people imagine dinosaurs with humans as like the dinosaurs just want to kill everybody, and then some people imagine dinosaurs with humans, and it's like, what if we could all kind of get along and like make it work, you know? And I think that that's also part of the. I mean, either way you look at it, it's kind of exciting. I mean, them eating you is only exciting if it's on a movie, but it's just, I think it like adds to the mystery and the thrill of just the dinosaur thought, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when you go hiking, you have to worry about a cougar. How much worse would it be if you had to worry
A
about
velociraptor, you know?
Be like, I got my
know,
bear
right?
spray, my taser, and my harpoon gun for dinosaurs.
It's like, I know. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But I feel like it brings a new, I don't know, thought to my mind when I read about Nimrod. Because if you remember, Nimrod was the dude who built Assyria and Babylon.
He was the beast hunter.
And he was the beast hunter. And I never really thought about that. They're like, okay, he was like a guy who was good at like killing deer. But now I think about it and it's like, no, dude, that guy probably was just like killing dinosaurs.
Maybe, yeah.
Like the way that I picture it now is I wonder if dinosaurs were all, T-Rex is peaceable with humanity. And then post flood, you get these dinosaurs that are like, no, we want to eat you. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have to like run from T-Rex and Velociraptor or whatever. And then there was some dude who was like, no, I'm going to freaking kill that thing with a spear or whatever.
Yeah.
And because he was good at killing some dinosaurs, then he became famous and people were like, stick with that guy. He'll protect us from the dinos, you know? And
I actually have that in my short story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's like a whole dinosaur hunt that happens.
Oh, yeah. Nice,
But,
dude.
yeah.
That's fun. So, yeah, it's, I just think that that's an interesting thought. But have you ever had a phase, maybe when you were younger, when you were wanting to play with dinosaurs, dinosaur toys, dinosaur Legos?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I grew up with those little colored plastic dinos that every kid had back in the day, where it was like the rigid plastic, like just uniform, like all one color, and you just have like a ton of them. So I still play with those a bunch. And then, ever since like, remember the Lego line Johnny Quest? Or was it Johnny Quest?
I don't know if I remember that. Johnny Quest sounds familiar, but I felt like that was something different.
Yeah, no. It was Johnny Thunder, maybe.
Johnny Thunder, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like this line of Legos where like this one guy, he's like kind of Indiana Jones basically character, and he would go through like different environments, but it started off with like kind of Egyptian stuff because it was like
Okay.
a clearly an Indiana Jones knockoff.
Right.
And
You're not gonna sell us the rights? That's okay.
yeah, well, copy it
Doesn't
anyway.
matter.
Call it Johnny Thunder. But yeah, like he even had like an old like dude mentor and like, you know, whatever, like a little sidekick and whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so it started off in Egypt, but then it ended up going to like Dino Island. And I think that was like right around Jurassic Park, like 2 coming out or something like that. So they clearly ripped off that as well. It was like Dino cage set or whatever, you know, it's like Trap the Dino. Yeah, it must have been Jurassic Park 2 probably. But so yeah, I had a ton of those, and I'd make like big enclosures and like little zoos for dinosaurs and stuff like that.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so it's like fascinated by close encounters with the dinosaur kind.
Yeah. The dinosaur kind. Yeah.
Yeah, what always tripped me out, well, what trips me out now is that like dinosaurs weren't even the biggest animals on the planet. It's like still the blue whale.
Yeah, right.
It's like the biggest animal is still out there.
Yeah.
And we like, I don't know. Yeah, blows my mind. And there's like the fact that there's not even a lot of footage of them. It's like literally the biggest animal and you can barely like find it.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is interesting.
Like you're lucky if you see like something on YouTube of like, I don't know, whatever. But like I always love the either like divers next to a blue whale or like a kayaker. If you can like find like a video of a kayaker and a blue whale, it's just like you really see the scale.
Yeah.
Because it's like
that thing is huge, dude.
yeah, you'll like show like the diver and it's like you have to like pan over to see the rest of the whale.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Which it makes sense to me that the biggest creatures would be water creatures because one, who wants to lug all that weight around? And two, you've got more space.
Yeah.
Like there's only, you know, like the bigger the animal is, the more like territory it wants.
Yeah.
Whereas in the ocean, I don't know how territorial stuff works in the ocean, but it's like, well, there's a lot more space to have territory or move around, or
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, this water's always moving. Maybe this is
Well, the fact that it's 3-dimension, like, you know, it's like you could have a 22 square mile zone or whatever, you know, that you have for like a land animal with like and so maybe, okay, say they're 6 feet tall or whatever the animal, and you have a 22-mile area zone. If you're in the ocean, you have a 22-mile zone and it's 6 feet, and then you just add another 6 feet, you literally doubled your territory.
right.
You know, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
If you add 100 feet, you know, you just poof.
Yeah.
So, the amount of never underestimate how much 3D how much volume adds to like a space. Is an interesting thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
If there was an animal today that were to go extinct,
which one would I want it to be?
well,
I'm
no,
just
no.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
And people in the future were gonna have to like figure out what that animal was and like try to recreate it in their mind. What animal do you think would be the most difficult to get accurately?
Oh gosh.
Like if people just saw the bones of this animal, they'd be like, they would have no idea what that animal's really about.
Probably like an armadillo or something.
Armadillo. Yeah.
Maybe like yeah. Armadillo would be a weird one.
I was thinking of a platypus. I don't know if duckbills.
They have a lot of soft tissue that
I feel like duckbills would maybe not last long. I don't know. Maybe they would.
maybe if it was like instantly fossilized or something.
Yeah, it could.
Like you could probably do that. Yeah, that'd be hard. Like
You wouldn't get that fur component.
yeah.
And I feel like it would be a weird structure, but I don't know.
I mean, some like sharks and stuff would be like weird because they use a lot of like electromagnetic like sensing and stuff like that. So you would have no idea.
Yeah, there's weird things that it's like you would not know that they had a certain capability. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Or, you know, just different animals that use like different vision and stuff. Like I think hummingbirds can see in infrared, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I thought snakes could.
oh, maybe yeah. Well, yeah, snakes have the heat pits under their eyes.
Yeah.
That they can like pick up. Yeah, like different like thermal wavelengths.
Or like electric eels. Like,
dude, that's a nuts animal.
Who would know that you could just like power your Tesla with that thing, you know?
Put a little aquarium in the front and an electric eel.
Dude, I feel like that should be a funny Well, yeah. We should have like a little. There should be like a little TV show or something where the whole world is like running on eel power.
Be like a Flintstones or something.
Yeah, instead of like hamsters running in a wheel, it's like a bunch of eels swarming in some giant pool, and we just like charge off of them.
Right? I mean, there's like, I mean, yeah, you have the bombardier beetle, which like mixes like explosive chemical compounds in its body and then shoots it out.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, there's some wild stuff out there.
Yeah. Like poison dart frogs, like literally making neurotoxin on their like skin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that actually. That's right.
Yeah, like if you saw a skeleton of that, you wouldn't know that like this frog would kill you if you touched it.
Yeah.
Like, that's super weird.
I think, it's like knowing how superpowered and amazing animals that are still around today are.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes the mystery of the dinosaurs even more interesting to me. Like maybe we've made them too basic. I don't know. Maybe they were more spectacular, like they could breathe fire and fly.
You could say that, yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, all kinds of cool things to think about.
Yeah. Well, even some of the like megafauna too, it's like bears that were like, 20 feet tall or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Myths.
yeah, like giant sloths and stuff.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's a hilarious animal.
Yeah, that is kind of a funny animal to think about.
Yeah. It's like, have you ever seen a sloth in person?
I don't think I have.
Okay.
No.
They're super funny.
Oh yeah.
They just kind of like, they just look like they're like thawing out all the time.
Thawing.
Yeah. Like they're just coming out of like being frozen or something. It's just like so slow and deliberate every single thing they do.
I just think of the Zootopia scene with the like DMV drive guy or whatever.
It's the sloth.
Yeah, it's like a sloth guy.
That movie's too real.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
Do you still think there's dinosaurs in the Congo?
I want there to still be dinosaurs in the Congo.
Have you ever read people's accounts?
I want there
to
be the Loch Ness monster, and I want there to be the Leviathan down in the sea somewhere, and I want there to still be some monsters left on Earth.
If you ever want to get freaked out, go watch people doing saturation diving next to oil rigs. What
is that? Saturation? Like where they're diving?
Yeah, they're like filling their blood up with nitrogen.
Oh, right.
And like to go extra deep.
Yeah.
And like underwater welding at like just absurd depths.
Oh.
But you can watch, or actually even just go watch some like undersea camera footage from alongside oil rigs.
Whoa.
And it'll just be like pitch black, like looking out, and you just hear like the creaking sounds of like metal like echoing under the water, and it's like pitch black. Oh. It's the spookiest thing I've ever seen.
Oh.
It's like see things like swim by occasionally and stuff.
Oh.
It's like if you love claustrophobia, that's what you should watch.
Oh wow.
Sounds
like the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, dude, you realize just like how big the ocean actually is and like how anything could be down there.
Yeah.
And like would not even be detectable until it was too late.
Yeah.
It's like expect to see like a tentacle like slither up or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Dude, that is the chaos realm.
Yeah.
This is the place of darkness.
Have you ever seen a giant squid? Like one of those colossal squids?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, they're so massive.
I mean, I think I've seen like
dead ones or whatever.
Never in person or any. I mean,
I don't think anyone's
how
really
could you even see one in person? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most people have seen like an alive one.
It's not something you keep at the zoo.
No, you just like pressurize the water probably, like do all this weird stuff. But yeah, dude. So I mean, there's still aliens on Earth.
Dinosaurs, or aliens.
Yeah, however you want to look at it.
Giant monsters.
Yeah, I mean, like a giant squid. How's that not an alien?
Godzilla.
Maybe.
Godzilla's down there.
He is.
He's just chilling under the nuclear reactor in Tokyo or whatever.
Just waiting, biding his time.
In Japan.
Just drinking all the runoff radiation.
That's right. Yeah. That's why it hasn't infected us all the way over here. He's drinking it before it gets here.
It's a little straw. That's some good radiation.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's interesting reports out of the Congo and stuff. Of people.
I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that there was some guy that Joe Rogan interviewed who had done like an exploratory trip in the Congo, and was
it Forrest Galante?
No, it wasn't him actually. It was somebody else, but I can't remember who it was. I mean, I've got to look it up, and I'll have to watch that episode at some point. But yeah,
those are the best Joe Rogan episodes where it's like something just like totally mythological and like weird and offbeat.
Yeah.
just like, dude, do you think aliens were like out there doing DMT or whatever? Like,
Aliens had to be doing drugs, man. That's totally.
yeah, it's like, what does that have to do with
It's
anything?
like, okay, what are we talking about here? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's like some expert who knew a guy who has like classified government secrets, that, like he was only able to find because, of Alex Jones or something.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a quintessential old Joe Rogan episode.
Speaking of which, in you gotta love how the frogs like switch gender in Jurassic Park,
Oh, that happened?
because they made the way that they made it is that they took the dino DNA from the mosquitoes in sap, and they took the mosquito, they took the dino blood out, and then they're recreating the like genetic code of the dinosaurs. But they're like, well, there were a bunch of gaps in the genetic code,
that's right, yeah.
so we filled in the gaps with frog DNA. But then in the frog DNA, like apparently frogs can change their gender if they want to, like during like their adulthood, they can like change from male to female.
There's actually a duck that can do that too.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so that was what they did. So in Jurassic Park, they bred only female dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
But because
that's
they
right.
had frog code, they were able to like switch to male out in the wilderness. And so then they started breeding other dinosaurs that nobody knew about.
Oh, I missed that part of the movie.
It's kind of subtle.
Yeah.
It's like they talk about the frog DNA in the beginning when they're explaining it, and there's a scene where the doctor's out there, the archaeologist guy, and he's like, wait, we just found like some eggs out in the wild, like they shouldn't be like eggs out here. And so they don't make like a huge point of it.
Yeah, I do remember that, but yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
Well, bring back the dinos.
Bringing back the dinosaurs. Well, I do it every time I fill up my car.
Oh my God.
On that note, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoy some parallel dinosaurs. Maybe the dinosaurs will come back at the end of the world.
Who knows? There's already some running for office.
Oh my God.
Just kidding. See ya.